Avi Lipkin has spoken to numerous churches, synagogues, and civic groups. He's also done numerous radio and TV interviews. He offers compelling proof that the fanaticism of radical Islam is the #1 threat to world peace today. In his first book, Is Fanatic Islam a Global Threat?, Avi presents his belief that Christians and Jews must forge an alliance to stop Islam's secret goal to destroy Judaism and Christianity and dominate the world. In his second book, released in late 1999, Christian Revival for Israel's Survival, expresses the need for Christians to awaken to their responsibility to stand with Israel in the days ahead. Avi studied for an MA at Israel's conservative Jewish seminary, is a spokesman for the Israel Defense Force Reserves, and is a former senior editor and translator for the Israeli government press office under Prime Minister Shamir. For the last several years, Avi has traveled extensively throughout the United States, speaking to churches and groups of every size and denomination. And we are so blessed to have Avi Lipkin with us today. I would ask you all to please, again, make sure that your cell phones are turned off and that you give Avi your complete attention. Avi, please come forward, please. I forgot to recognize an important person that used to be with us here every week, and now he is Chief Deputy for Larry Smith. Fred, would you wave to them, please? Chief Little. Chief Little is with us today. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Actually, I have a news
Oh, you did?
Okay, as they say in Texas, shalom, y'all. I'm used normally to 2-3 hours, and I have, I think, 45 minutes, so it's going to be very, very without any frills. I'm American born. I'm an American citizen, and I pay taxes to Uncle Sam. But I've been in Israel 45 years, and so I pay taxes in Israel as well. Give unto the Lord that which is the Lord's, and give unto the two Caesars that the two Caesars are stealing. And so I spend half my life here, half my life in Israel. 6 months of the year I'm in Christian churches, U.S., Canada, Europe. I'm very appreciative that you have me here today. It's not always that the Tea Party has a convicted criminal speaking in front of them. I have a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland. How many people knew about that? And I'll tell you very quickly why, because the reason I got the jail sentence in Switzerland is the reason I'm going to get the same jail sentence here eventually. The Muslims have 400 mosques in Switzerland, and they wanted to put up minarets. Minarets are those tall spires where they go 5 times a day with the broadcasters. Allahu Akbar. This goes on from, if you think you're going to sleep after 4:30 in the morning, you're not. And so the Christian EDU party brought me to Switzerland. I spoke in 23 German-speaking cities. I was on Swiss TV, and I spoke about noise pollution. Switzerland is a country with these little clocks. For $3, you buy a little clock with a battery. They could set it at 4 in the morning, go to the mosque. They don't have to wake up the whole neighborhood. But that's the way Islam is. They have to wake up the whole neighborhood because the mosque represents the domination of Islam over any other system. Praise God, November the 29th, 2009, the Swiss people voted by a majority of 57.5% against the minarets. There are no minarets today in Switzerland, praise God. And I have news for you. You do have minarets in the United States. They go county by county, town by town. They're in Dearborn. They're in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Liberal Christians and liberal Jews, when the Muslims came, said it's part of our religion, freedom of religion. And after they put up these minarets, the Jews and Christians immediately started selling their homes and leaving because it's noise pollution, hearing this Allahu Akbar 5 times a day. And beware that they don't start putting up minarets here in Tyler. I really don't know where to go. I have so much information to pack in. Alexis de Tocqueville wrote in 1840, in Democracy in America. How many people read Democracy in America? See, that was taken out of the syllabus after 1966. I read it in 66. And Alexis de Tocqueville said, I'm paraphrasing now from President Eisenhower, who was paraphrasing, America will be the greatest country on earth because the American people are a good people and their pulpits are on fire for the Lord. Conversely, when America's pulpits will no longer be on fire for the Lord, America loses its preeminence in the world. And that's where we are today. You know, living in Israel 45 years, coming back and forth, I have a pretty good outsider's view of things that you and here in America don't see. And I'll tell you something else. I'm married to my wife, Rachel, 45 years, and she's from Egypt. She's Jewish. I'm Jewish. But I think like a Christian, because I was raised in Christian America. American educational system, democracy, the republic, one nation under God, God save America. That's how I grew up. My wife was born and raised in Egypt. And for the first 20 years of her life, she was educated as a Muslim because she lived in a Muslim country. And so Rachel and I together, let me tell you, we're a team. Because she understands these people. Rachel has been an intelligence gatherer for the Israeli government for the last 30 years. 30 years ago, Saudi broadcast said, even if it takes us 150 years, we're going to make America a Muslim country. And my wife thought they were crazy. Now my wife is picking up broadcasts 30 years later, and the Muslims are saying, we were wrong. We thought it was going to take 150 years. America is a piece of cake. We're going to make America a Muslim country in 30 years. Which means pretty much in our lifetime, God willing, that we should be alive, not that they should take over, of course. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk a little bit about how they're taking over this country. I'll add one little point before I get into the message. You know, the rabbi, before he speaks, he says, before I speak, I'd like to say a few words. Rachel was listening to them in the 1990s, and they were saying in the 1990s, we're going to take their planes and we're going to crash them into the World Trade Center. My first book on the table is Fanatic Islam, A Global Threat. Came out in its final 5th edition in 1997, 4 years before 9/11. And 5 times I talk about the destruction of the World Trade Center. So before it happened, oh, Avi, you shouldn't say these things about the Muslims. They're good people. Yes, they are good people. But after it happened, Avi's a prophet. I said, I'm not a prophet. I just listen to my wife. She listens to them. You need to listen to the enemy. When they say they're going to do something, you should listen to them and prepare for it. I've been coming to the States since 1990. I would fly into Kennedy Airport in New York with El Al, and then I'd fly all around the U.S. from local airports. And I'd say to the local security people before 9/11, you don't know what they're preparing for you guys. You guys are sitting ducks. Oh, you Israelis, you're all paranoid. They wouldn't dare to attack America. Pride before the fall. And after it happened, President George W. Bush, for whom I have a great admiration, said, go back to sleep. Islam is a religion of love, he said. Islam is a religion of peace, he said. And Allah and God are the same. Do you know why I got a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland? Because I said Allah is not God, Allah is Satan, Lucifer, the devil. Amen. Because only a God like... Because only a God like that could call for the annihilation of the entire human race. The Jew on Saturday, the Christian on Sunday, the Hindus, the Buddhists, the blacks any day, and then the Muslims kill each other, not necessarily in that order. Islam is a religion of peace when everyone is dead. And they're coming here. You guys are not going to live in the Middle East. They're coming here because it's greener on the other side, on the Christian side, or in Israel, the Jewish side, but the rest of the Western world is Christian. So what I want to do, as quickly as possible, is to explain to you the plan. And some of the plan was not really my plan. In 1970, you had 100,000 Muslims in America. 100,000 Muslims. We Jews were 6 million. We were number 2. This changed in 79. What happened in 79? America had a president by the name of Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter didn't like the Shah of Iran because he was a dictator. You know, dictators are guilty of human rights violations. And so he decided with Zbigniew Brzezinski to bring down the Shah. And he brought him down. And then Jimmy Carter said, there's a man of God, a religious man. He will lead the people of Iran. And we serve the same God. The Muslims and the Christians serve the same God. That's what he said. That man's name was Ayatollah Khomeini. And Jimmy Carter, because of his stupidity and ignorance, I think one of the stupidest presidents ever in American history. Brought down your number one ally in the Middle East, your number one Muslim friend. The cornerstone of the Cold War against the Soviets. Do you know who started the nuclear program in Iran? The US and Israel. Because the Shah was your ally. We're facing a nuclear holocaust today in the Middle East because of the Iranian nuclear program, and that's thanks to Jimmy Carter. And so what happened? With the fall of the Shah, there was a death sentence on the heads of 9 million, many died, many were killed, but 9 million Iranian Shiites had to flee. Most of them came to America. And it was right for America to take them in because they were your allies. You stabbed your ally in the back. So all of a sudden you have an influx into this country of about 9 million Shiite Iranians. And they're good people. They're westernized. They're not fanatic Muslims. So the Jews became number 3 in 1979. Because you had 9 million Shiite Iranians. There's another group called the Sunnis, the Arabs. The Sunni Arab Immigrant Association, a few years ago, claimed 7 million members. How much is 7 million and 9 million? 16 million. Louis Farrakhan of the Nation of Islam claims 4 million members. So the minimum of Muslims in America is 20 million. I'm talking about Shiite Iranians and Sunni Arabs. And black Americans. We're not talking about Bosnians, Turks, Indonesians from India, from other countries that are not Arab or not Iranian. Once I was returning my rent-a-car at DFW airport, very sweet guy, took the keys, a Muslim from Indonesia. And I was in a rush to catch my flight. But when he said to me, America is the greatest country on earth, I stopped. And I wanted to listen to him. Why is America the greatest country? He said, oh, you see, I used to be a FedEx UPS delivery boy in Jakarta, in Indonesia. And one day I was delivering packages and the American embassy official points his finger at me. He says, hey, you want to go to America? There's a plane leaving tomorrow. Bring your family, bring your friends, let's fill up the plane. You don't need a passport, you don't need visa. We will process you when you get to the US. Isn't America the most greatest country on the face of the earth? Free jet charters coming into the US every day, bringing in thousands of Muslims. You know, I'm a nobody. I'm not a rabbi, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a priest. I'm not a professor, I'm not a member of Knesset yet. How many people know I'm forming a Judeo-Christian party to run for the Israeli Knesset elections? I got a book and a CD. It'll be the Israeli version of the Tea Party. I'm going to talk a little bit about it at the end because you're going to understand where this is all going. You're not just dealing with President Obama. You're not just dealing with the Democratic Party. Because many people in the Republicans, are also bribed by the Muslims. So today you have somewhere between 20 and 30 million Muslims in this country. Muslims don't want to admit it. It's called jihad by stealth. Infiltrating the US. And I'm going to share one of the ways they do it. And this is in my second book, Christian Revival for Israel's Survival. This oil-rich prince, I think from Brunei, from Indonesia, calls up Duke University, Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Duke University is a good university. It's not necessarily Ivy League, but it's a good school. And he tells them, I'm coming, this is in the 80s, I'm coming to give you a gift of $23 million. Now, what's the university going to say, yes or no? Yeah. Better believe it. The university is supposed to be a money-making institution. He arrives, they make a big party for him. He delivers a speech, dedication speech, to give them the check. No strings attached. He says, we have a great appreciation for this university. And here's the $23 million. We want to make your university even better. You guys don't have an Arabic language studies chair or Islamic studies chair. We will give you another $23 million if you establish an Arabic language and Islamic studies chair. What's the university going to say?
Yes.
Of course, yes. Now the kitty is up to $46 million. And we know you Americans don't have a clue about Islam, so we're going to send you our teachers. What are Muslim teachers? Missionaries. And we'll give you the teaching aids, which are missionary books, to convert Americans to Islam. And we will also send you, every year, 500 young male students. Not girls, boys. Because they guard their girls. American girls, Jewish, Christian, atheist, otherwise, can be married to Muslim men, not the other way around. So after 4 years, you got 500 freshmen, 500 sophomores, 500 juniors, and 500 seniors. 2,000 young Muslim men, hot-blooded young kids. And boys will be boys. And they're allowed to marry Jewish or Christian women. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. When a Muslim man marries a non-Muslim woman, what's the religion of the children? Muslim. So American women become baby factories for Islam. After 2 years of marriage, these Muslim kids get American passports because they're married to an American girl. After they get American passports, they can then bring in their parents, their brothers, their sisters, their cousins, their uncles, their aunts, additional wives, because they have 4. So the growth becomes exponential. And I don't have to tell you the names of the universities, you know them. They all receive money from Islam today. Let's say the kitty for Duke University reached $100 million. Do the Muslims have $100 million for Duke University? Sure they do. Do they have $1 billion for 10 universities? Do they have $100 billion for 1,000 universities? And the answer is yes. You see, Muslims, unlike Jews and Christians, for Jews and Christians, we, the individual, we are in the middle of a box. God is somewhere out there. For the Muslims, Allah is in the middle of the box, and they are totally dedicated to that Allah. Everything goes for Allah. They make money, it goes to Allah. They don't create industries. They don't turn the desert green. On the contrary, they make the green desert. And then when they have desolation, they come to live here. And in a few minutes, I'm going to tell you exactly how President Obama is going to bring in 50 million Muslims into this country. We're going to talk about the Arab Spring in a few minutes. The Arab Spring is totally, totally desolating the entire Middle East, except for Israel, of course. And when they start starving, you will not be able to fly humanitarian relief to them every day to feed 100 million people. So the United Nations is going to pass a law that the Western countries all have to chip in. And the greatest amount of these Muslims will come to America, 50 million. How are you going to settle them? Anyone here heard of Agenda 21?
Oh, yeah.
Agenda 21 is tailor-made to bring in 50 million Muslims. Okay. How many people here know that if you're a Christian, you're a terrorist? Ask the U.S. government. How many people know that if you are a Bible believer, you're mentally insane? Ask the government. And if you're a Christian in the military, I got an email just 2 days ago that 200 top officers in the military have been fired because they're Christian. Stalin is purges of the Christian American military. I think that's outrageous. You know what scares me? When Vladimir Putin says that what made Russia great was its Christianity. You see the roles being reversed here? Isn't that scary? Okay. So can you begin to understand, you've got 1,000 universities bringing in 500 male students a year. Now they're bringing in girl students too, because there are a lot of Muslim males around too. So 1,000 times 500 a year, we're talking about 500,000 people coming into the country. A lot of them go home, but many stay here. So do you understand why it's not outrageous to think that you got 7, 8, 9 million Shiite Sunnis here, in addition to the 9 million Shiite Iranians? So let's talk a little bit about the Arab Spring. And like I said before, I'm not attacking Obama. I'm not attacking the Democrats. I'm attacking all your presidents for the last 40 years. Your State Department. that has a very clear approach to helping Israel here and there with its military needs, but America is in the pocket of the Saudis. You know what, let me go back a moment. I really started out in Texas in November of 1990. And it was the eve of Desert Storm. I was an Israeli army spokesman. I came here in November, December, predicted exactly what was going to happen in Desert Storm. And after I came back in April, everyone said, Avi's a prophet, Avi's a prophet. I said, I'm not a prophet, I'm an Israeli army spokesman. When you're an Israeli army spokesman, you're debriefed. You know exactly what's going to happen. We knew we were going to be hit by these missiles. So in April, I come back to the States. And I get a frantic call from a PR woman. I'm in New York. She says, get on the next plane to Dallas. You're speaking tonight before the Council on Foreign Relations. The Dallas Council on World Affairs. How many people heard of the Dallas Council on World Affairs? See a few hands. And, God has a sense of humor. I didn't know what it was. My Christian friend said to me, you better be careful. Those people ain't Christians. Those people serve mammon. You know, either you serve the Lord or you serve mammon. And God has a sense of humor. I was a pinch hitter because the Council on Foreign Relations, they book a year or 2 years in advance. And they said, come tomorrow, you're speaking tomorrow. It's out of keeping. Who was I replacing? Boris Yeltsin. Boris Yeltsin was contracted to give 4 lectures. He gave 2 lectures. He was an alcoholic, had a little bit too much to drink, and he was on the next plane back to a hospital in Russia. The 3rd night was a washout. The 4th night was already paid for at the Stauffer Hotel. It's now Renaissance Hotel, 5-star, 200 people were there. They needed a speaker. So firstly, God had to make Boris Yeltsin so drunk that the doors would open for Avi Lipkin to come down. That's half the story. The other half of the story, like I said before, I'm a nobody, just a lieutenant, hadn't written any books yet. This was in 1991. So General Latham retired. Does anyone know General Latham of the Council on Foreign Relations? Well, anyway, I don't know where he is now, but when I got there, he says, so tell me, sir, what's it like to be a general in the Israeli army? I said, General? Aren't you General A. Lipkin? Chief of Staff of the Israeli army? They thought they were getting Chief of Staff. I said, I'm not General A. Lipkin, I'm Lieutenant A. Lipkin of the Army Spokesman's Office. But for people from Dallas, Amnon, Avi, it's all the same. And I promised them, and I delivered, kept my promise, a very military lecture, no politics. And actually, they invited me back to debate with Professor Edward Said, but the Israeli government said no contact with Palestinian Liberation Organization officials, while at the same time our socialist leadership was meeting in Oslo to prepare the Oslo agreements. This is the most important evening of my life. The testimony I'm about to share with you, I repeat every day when I can. Most important testimony in my life. It's all 6 of my books. It's the only thing I repeat in all 6 of my books. And I said to them, and it applies today too, many of you are asking, what's going to happen with Netanyahu? What's going to happen in the Middle East? When will there be a war? It says in the good book, nobody knows the timing of the wars. Nobody knows the time of the Messiah. I don't know these things. I just know that the tendency is in that direction. But I explained to them that Israel was attacked again and again and again by Egypt and Syria. And in 1967, we took Sinai from Egypt a 3rd time. We took it in 49. President Truman made us give it back. We did. We have the last word with the United States, Yes, dear. We took it in 56. Eisenhower made us give it back in 57. We took it in 67. Jimmy Carter made us give it back. Now, the good thing, ironically, is that we do have a peace agreement with Egypt, and it did last all these years. But Sinai was 91% of the land that we were forced to take in these wars of self-defense. And UN resolutions 242 and 338 say that Israel will hand over land for peace out of the total, including Sinai, but that we would negotiate with our neighbors for new borders which are secure, recognized, and defensible, not old borders. The State Department in Washington has been steadfast in demanding that Israel go back to the indefensible borders of June the 5th, 1967, which American Joint Chiefs of Staff visited in Israel in 68 and said these borders are Auschwitz extermination camp lines. And the military, U.S. military, said to Israel, you must never go back to the borders of 67. But what is your government saying? What are your presidents saying? Yeah, go back to the borders of 67. We gave up half the Golan Heights in June of 74. If you remember, Henry Kissinger negotiated the disengagement. That's 2%. How much is 91 and 2%? 93%. Sidebar. Since then, we gave them Gaza. Did that bring us peace? It got us missiles. And a little tidbit of information you might want to hear is that in the upper echelons in the leadership in Jerusalem today, they're saying there is no doubt, after all these tunnels, you heard about the tunnels underneath the border into Israel. Every time we give them cement, they build tunnels. They don't build houses. They don't take care of their people. And the Israeli government is saying it is inevitable that we shall return to Gaza. And we shall evict the Hamas. Hamas, Salafists, whoever is making all this trouble. That's just a little tidbit you might want to know. Not prophecy, just briefing from my wife and other people who are involved. So that's 95%. 2% of the land we gave to Arafat, that's 97% of the land. Israel is asking for the Jordan River and half the Golan, and some of the Judea and Samaria, which is the heartland of Israel. And President Obama and all the presidents before him say no, June the 5th, 67, which are suicide borders. So let me ask you a question. Is Israel going to commit suicide? No. So you don't have to worry about that. Now, if we don't go back to the borders of 67, Palestinians won't negotiate and make a Palestinian state. So will there ever be a Palestinian state? Never be a Palestinian state. Okay. These are just logical things. And then I said to them, you know, I didn't understand who these people were. I thought they were dressed nicely, they were American, they were white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, I thought they were Christians. So I talked to them like they were Christians. And I said to them, you know, Jesus was in Nazareth and he walked down to the Sea of Galilee. It's about a 2-3 hour walk. And he went with the fishers at Capernaum. Then he walked down along the Jordan River and he baptized with John the Baptist there in Jericho. Then he walked up to Jerusalem. You know, everybody was walking at short distances. That's how small Israel is. Israel fits in the Metroplex. You know, Dallas, Fort Worth. And the traffic is about as bad. Actually, I made a mistake. It's like from San Antonio, the length is from like San Antonio to Oklahoma City, let's say. Then it's very narrow. It's 1 hour in the width. And I said to them, you can drive from the Jordan River up to Jerusalem in 20 minutes. You can fly from Amman and bomb Jerusalem in 3 minutes. Tel Aviv in another 2 minutes. U.S. Air Force scramble time is 11 minutes as far as I remember. We don't have 11 minutes. Our planes are up in the air all the time. And after the 73 war, we're not going to be taken by surprise again. That was my message. UN resolutions 242 and 338 say that Israel must have defensible borders. The defensible borders are the Jordan River, have to go on. So we had dinner. After we had dinner, they said, Avi, we want to talk to you. Now we're going to talk. And they said, you're a good speaker for Israel. You know why? You're American born. You don't speak with a funny Israeli accent. We understand everything you're trying to say to us. And then they said to me, we in Dallas don't like funny accents. We don't like Russian accent of Yeltsin. We don't like the Arabic accents of the princes that come here, the oil princes. We don't like the Jewish accent from Israel. We don't like Queen's English from Oxford. And you speak like a Yankee. But you speak clear English. You're a good speaker for Israel. But you don't know realities. We of the Dallas Council on World Affairs are going to teach you realities. Reality number one, Israel's all alone. You guys are going to withdraw 100% back to the borders of June 5th, 67, because you're all alone. We Americans gave you an airlift in 73. We saved your butts. We're never going to do it again. Get used to the idea. And we don't care about UN resolutions 242 and 338. Secondly, they said to me, and this is the key, I share this in every church I speak, and I've been in over 1,000 churches all over the world. They said, you have to remember there's only one thing that made America great, and that's the barrel of oil. Steady price of oil, steady supply of oil, and we're not going to let the Jews get in the way of that. Is that clear? That's what they said to me. So sitting next to me were two Christian couples. I don't know if any of you ever heard of Eric Gustafson, rest in peace. He was a big supporter of Marlon Maddox and KBTT radio. And he was shaking like this. He got up, red in the face. And he said to these people, you call yourselves Christians? Because I thought they were Christians, but my two Christian couple angels were with me. They knew who they were. You call yourselves Christians, you say what made America great was the barrel of oil? You should be ashamed of yourselves. What made America great was not the barrel of oil. What made America great was Jesus Christ. And I have to tell you, I was the only Jew in the room. But the lights went on for me that night. And I understood there are two types of Americans. There are Christians and there are anti-Christians. And America had a Franklin Delano Roosevelt, communist, socialist, Democrat, who looked the other way while the Nazis were gassing thousands of Jews every day. Had America had a Christian conservative president, a Tea Party president in World War II, we might not have saved all of them, but we could have saved a few millions. You know, that last railroad track, there was one railroad track going to the gas chambers. One B-17 or British Lancaster could have bombed that one railroad track once a day and disrupted the deaths of, prevented the deaths of 1 million, 2 million people. From 1944, you don't think President Roosevelt knew what was happening? And what I've come to understand over all these years is that there were three sides to the Holocaust. You had the Nazis, of course. I don't want to say the German people. Germans are good people, but the Nazis. How many people know that 7 million Christians died in the concentration camps? Anyone who denies the Jewish Holocaust denies the Christian Holocaust. The Jewish Holocaust began in earnest in November of 1938, but Hitler was killing Christians from January 33. By the time the turn of the Jews came, 7 million Christians, most of them were gone. Catholics, Protestants, anyone who disagreed with the regime. So there were two other sides in addition to the Nazis. There were the Arabs. Now the Arabs, you know, in the 30s and 40s, they controlled a lot of oil there in the Middle East. And the Allies, strategically, they made a decision. We don't want that oil to fall into the hands of Hitler. And to tell you the truth, the Muslim faith, the Muslim way of thinking, is very close to Nazism. I'm going to talk about that a little later, towards the end. They wanted the Jews dead. So they said to the Nazis, you kill the Jews, we're with you. And they said to the Americans, the Brits, and the Canadians, you deny the Jews the visa, we're with you. So a strategic decision was made that 6 million Jews had to die in the Holocaust. How many people remember the ship to St. Louis? St. Louis was a refugee ship that left the port of Hamburg, Germany in May of 1939. 900 Jews with passports and visas to Cuba, not to the U.S., to Cuba. How many people heard of Breckinridge Long? Breckinridge Long was the Undersecretary of State under Hull for visas. He called the Cuban government and said, you cancel the visas, you send that ship back to Europe. The ship turned around, was sent to the coast of Florida, 3 different places. The U.S. Coast Guard was circling the ship to make sure no Jews would jump ship and get to safety. Then it went up past the Canadian Maritime provinces. Hundreds of pastors signed a petition to Mackenzie King, Prime Minister of Canada, to at least have mercy, let the children off the ship. And Mackenzie King said, 1 Jew is 1 Jew too many. The ship went back to Belgium. World War II had already broken out. 800 of the 900 died in the concentration camps. There's no mercy. The Jews were expendable for the barrel of oil. And since then, how many people know that 2 million black people died in the South of Sudan? If I'm correct, I see a South Sudanese flag there. Unless I got the flags mixed up. How many people know that thousands of Christians died in the former Yugoslavia? Serbs were the allies in World War I and World War II. But because they were fighting the Muslims to retain a Christian Yugoslavia, the U.S. and NATO bombarded them and killed thousands. And President Bill Clinton helped to create the Islamic Republic of Kosovo, the Islamic Republic of Bosnia. Yeah, I got 3 Muslim republics in the heart of Europe, using American troops. There's another country about to become Muslims called Macedonia. I mean, I don't know if these names mean anything to you. Macedonia is now almost 50% Muslim. You know why Putin is saying what made America great is Christianity? Because almost 50% of the soldiers in the Russian army are Muslim. How many people knew that? Russia has a problem with Islam. I think Russia's going to deal with it. Russia backs whom? Russia backs the Shiites. America backs the Sunnis. We're going to start going into where this is going now. How many people know that today 15 million Christians are being ethnically cleansed in the Middle East? 15 million Christians, 10 million in Egypt, 5 million in Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq. How many people know that they are working for the end of Christianity? The Muslims are working for the end of Christianity in the Middle East. Yeah. Where are the churches? Where are the political parties? I'm a Jew. I know what a Holocaust is. I know my history. And I see a Holocaust here of 15 million Christians. And where are the American Christians? Where are the Canadians? Well, the Canadians actually are kind of, Stephen Harper is a Christian prime minister, praise God. He's the best friend Israel has today because he's a Christian. Do you understand why I'm ready to give my life for a Christian revival? And I'm not a Christian. Because if you guys don't have a revival, we ain't going to have a survival. I mean, we will have a survival because God is with us. But judgment will be upon America for turning on Israel. Because Israel is the apple of God's eye, and if you're Christian, you're grafted into us. You know that, Romans 9-11. If the roots go, the branches go. Okay. So let's go talk about the Arab Spring. 15 million Christians are being slaughtered. What do we know about the Christians in Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq? Christians are most often on a much higher economic level than the Muslim neighbors. Christians usually speak languages, they're family-oriented businesses, they got money. I would say today the Egyptian economy, for example, let's focus on Egypt because I don't have much time left. Egypt is 90 million people, 10 million Christians, 80 million Muslims. The 10 million Christians control about 40% of the economy. And 40% of the economy is controlled by the Egyptian military. That's why the Egyptian military overthrew Morsi. Because the Egyptian military is not stupid. The Muslim Brotherhood is stupid. And all those who back the Muslim Brotherhood are stupid. Now, the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt says that the Christians have one of three choices in Egypt. Either convert to Islam, die, or leave. The bottom line is there will be no more Christians in Egypt very soon. What happens to the economy of Egypt when the Christians leave? Collapses. What happens when the economy collapses? They starve. What happens when the Muslims starve? They leave. Where do they go? America. You already have 20, 30 million here. Why not bring another 50 million? Now I'm going to ask you a really tough question. How many people here think the dollar is going to collapse? How many people here think that the American economy is going to collapse? And I want to tell you something. I have a different opinion. I respect your opinion. I've heard it 1,000 times. I have a different opinion. My wife, Rachel, picked up broadcasts for the last 3 decades. And what Saudis, the Muslims, were saying, America's job is to serve us. America's job is to be mercenaries, send their boys and girls to die in Iraq, send their boys and girls to die in Afghanistan. And if the Saudis are not going to go to fight. Saudis are just they pull the strings. And as American industries leave this country and go to Cambodia and Bangladesh, and they used to go to Mexico. Mexico's too expensive now. Now they go to other countries. And the American economy is suffering from a, what is it called, the bone density? Osteoporosis. The American, thank you, Dr. Bills. The American economy is going through some kind of an osteoporosis. Capitalists, because of the unions that are demanding such high pay, and now the government is putting on taxes and more regulations, say, we don't need this. We'll just go to some other country, third world country, where we pay $60. China was $60 a month. That's too expensive. Capitalists now go to Bangladesh and Vietnam and Cambodia to pay $30 a month. Isn't capitalism wonderful? But America's emptying out. So America's economy is more and more and more dependent on oil and cash coming back from Saudi. You know, you got a $17 trillion debt. So what? You don't think the Saudis don't have $17 trillion? So what does my wife say to me? The Saudis say, we will never let Wall Street fall as long as they serve us. We'll keep the oil flowing. We're going to keep the money going back to the U.S. We're going to buy out their banks and buy out their real estate and buy out their politicians and buy out their media. And America will become a Muslim country because the Americans are addicted to a certain lifestyle. And God takes a back seat. Forgive me for saying it. I'm in a church. But this is an admonition. This is a warning to all of you. What made America great? Was it money or was it God? You know, I have to tell you, remember I asked you before, anyone who believes in the Bible is mentally unstable? How many people have heard that, mentally ill? If I had been here exactly 3 years ago, and I quoted Isaiah 19, 1 and 2, you'd say, this Avi's nuts. Does anyone know Isaiah 19, 1 and 2? Isaiah 19, 1 and 2 says, Egyptian will fight Egyptian. Brother will fight brother. Neighbor will fight neighbor. City will fight city. And that's exactly what happened in February of 2011 with the Arab Spring. And it's not just Egypt. It's Tunisia and Libya and Egypt and Yemen and Syria and Lebanon. All these countries are going up in flames. While Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State and lambasting Israel, Israel built 100 homes in Gilo in Jerusalem. End of the world, 100 homes. They're killing millions of Christians, for heaven's sakes, and nobody says a word. But Israel builds 100 homes. You know why? Because people in Washington are more concerned about the bribery and money that they're getting. And that's Republicans and Democrats. There's a very important need for the Tea Party. And the reason they're attacking the Tea Party so much in the media is because this is the real America. So what's going to happen is, I would say, 80 million Muslims in Egypt. I'll give you one more Bible quote. It hasn't happened yet, but I think it's going in that direction. How many people heard of Ezekiel 29? Ezekiel 29, the desolation of Egypt. 3 years ago, you'd think I was completely crazy. Now you only think I'm half crazy. God's word. Egypt is going to become a desolation. No animal will tread in the Nile Valley. No human foot will tread in the Nile Valley. Egypt will be a desolation for 40 years. It doesn't say the Egyptians will die. It says Egyptians will be scattered to all the nations. Which nation is the greatest nation on earth that will take in the most? America. It's not just Egyptians. It's going to be Syrians and Lebanese and Iraqis and Palestinians and Saudis. So let's get back to the economy. Will the dollar collapse? Will the American economy collapse? Now you all know 2007, 2008, you had Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae and the housing bubble. And all the prices plummeted, and that was the beginning of the faulting of all the banks. Kevin Freeman, have you had Kevin Freeman here? You should have Kevin Freeman, he's great. He talks about cyber attacks on Wall Street by Islamic terrorists who want to bring the American economy down. Now, that's not the Saudis. Saudis want the American economy to succeed because they're going to take over America for the glory of Allah. They don't want it to be destroyed. The Saudis are totally committed to this country. And if you hear in the media that the Saudis are angry with Obama, I think it's a charade. Because if the Saudis said, oh, we love Obama, we love Obama, we love Obama, then everyone would say, well, he's a Saudi plant. How many people saw the YouTube Saudi plant? When you go home, look up Saudi plant on YouTube. P-L-A-N-T. It's about me and my wife. My wife picked up a broadcast. It was Egyptian TV, Channel 3, January 19th, 2010. The Egyptian foreign minister is debating with the Muslim Brotherhood people on TV. And they were saying the Egyptian government isn't declaring war on Israel and breaking the peace accords. And the Egyptian foreign minister, Abu Lipkin, says to the Muslim Brotherhood, he says, now, are you guys finished? Is it my turn to talk? They said, yes. Let me calm you guys down. First, I want to tell you, you Muslim Brotherhood people don't know how to run a country. And if you come to power, you're going to destroy Egypt. Isn't that what happened? Secondly, I want to calm you guys down. President Obama was here in 2009, and we had a one-on-one meeting. And President Obama swore to me he's a Muslim. My father from Kenya is a Muslim. If the father's a Muslim, what's the son? Muslim. He says he's a Christian, but Muslims are allowed and commanded to lie. How many people know that? Do you know what they call their God? Do you know what the Muslims call Allah in Arabic? Al-Makr, M-A-C-K-E-R. Like Mack trucks. Remember Mack trucks, you'll never forget this. Al-Makr means Allah is the greatest of all the liars and deceivers. Now, if you're a Christian, who's the greatest of all liars and deceivers? Satan. When they pray Allahu Akbar, they're saying Allah is greater. Allah is greater than the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of the Jew and the Christian. I mean, these are things I preach in the churches. Christians don't know it. You know what? Jews don't know it. Okay. Jews don't want to listen either. It's okay. Because it's the 250, 280 million Christians in this country who are going to make the difference, not 5, 6 million Jews. Small group. And my stepfather from Indonesia was a Muslim, Suharto. I mean, we don't even know the name of the president. Is his name Barry Suharto or is it Mubarak Hussein Obama? We don't know what his social security number is because he's got a few of them. We don't know why he and Michelle were disbarred. This guy is getting it passed and passed. Anyway, okay. So my father's a Muslim, my stepfather's a Muslim. I was raised in a mosque and in a madrasa till age 11 in Indonesia. Now, if somebody is raised in a mosque until age 11 in Indonesia, what is he? How many people remember the Catholic Jesuit priest, Francis Xavier, who said, give me a child until 10 and I'll make him a man? Obama was made a Muslim man in Indonesia by age 11. And don't think he's stupid. He's not stupid. He's very brilliant. And he knows languages. He knows Arabic. I was watching him when the Iraqi Maliki was there on TV a few weeks ago. I was watching him nodding. I saw the body language. He was listening in Arabic. You have to know Arabic to study the Quran. He knows Indonesian, which is another language. He knows English. And he went on to say, this is in 2010, 2009, I've got Obamacare problems to deal with and American economic problems to deal with. But I swear, whenever come those problems, I will show you what I'm going to do to Israel, to destroy Israel. Remember what I said before? Dallas Council on World Affairs. America gave an airlift to Israel in 1973. We'll never give you an airlift again. Remember I said that? And you know what? Our former Prime Minister, Ehud Barak, the foreign minister, said that President Obama has done more for Israel than any other president. How many people have heard that? You want to know why he said it? There is truth in what he said. How many people know that just northeast of Ben Gurion Airport, there is a storage facility built by Clinton? Everybody was talking about, was it a concentration camp and a secret detention center? All these, paranoid people. It was a storage area to preposition war materiel in the case that the U.S. military needed it. Clinton put in $400 million worth of war materiel. Obama put in another $800 million of war materiel. That's a lot. But it's not a lot compared to what the Arabs had. All the trillions of dollars that have flowed of weapons into the Middle East. Basically, the American presidents are giving us enough rope to hang ourselves with. And the last thing the Jewish people want is a war. We don't want a war with Iran. And President Obama said all along that all the options are on the table. But Obama also said in his book that he would never attack another Muslim country. Iran is a Muslim country. My wife, Rachel, picked up broadcasts. Obama has 3 tasks. This is according to the Saudis. Task number 1, destroy the Shiite regime in Iran, replace it with a more friendly regime to Saudi. Number 2, destroy Israel. Number 3, destroy America as a Christian country. Because when you destroy America as a Christian country, then you rebuild it as a Muslim country, which is what they're doing. President Obama wants Israel to attack Iran by itself and then get plastered by all these missiles that will come in from Iran, Syria, Lebanon, Gaza. And then America will come out, and President Obama will come out smelling roses because he didn't start the war and had nothing to do with it. It's Israel's fault. It's always Israel's fault. Okay. So the Middle East is emptying out of its population. These people are going to end up coming here. Agenda 21 will settle these people here. And very soon you're going to be saddled with 80 million Muslims in this country. Meanwhile, the purging of the Christians will continue and accelerate. Churches will be too afraid to do anything. I want to share 2 testimonies I'm aiming to end at 1 o'clock. I hope that's okay. I call them the Edmonton Revelations, Edmonton, Canada. How many people have been in Edmonton, Canada? Okay, I see quite a few hands. That's good. I was there in 1999. It's in my books. There was an Egyptian Muslim woman from Cairo, like a Mother Teresa. She had a death sentence. She had to flee to Canada. She refused to work for them, for the jihad. And I was in an Orthodox synagogue, and a Christian woman attending the Orthodox synagogue because she wanted to know how Jesus prayed. That's how he prayed. You know, he wasn't a Christian. And he wasn't a Baptist either. He was a Jew, prayed as a Jew. It says in the New Testament, Jesus read from the Torah, and he read from the Haftorah, the prophets, and then he gave a sermon. It's exactly the way it is today. Anyway, I got up to speak. The rabbi announced me as an Israeli army spokesman that the Christians give me 10 hours, because I do 10-hour seminars. It's 3 nights. He said, the Christians give him 10 hours, we're going to give him 10 minutes. Whoa. After the service, Saturday morning, you have a kiddush, which is a light repast, and then I get up to speak, and I got shouted down by 2 liberals. They wouldn't let me talk. See, liberals are liberal with you if you are liberal like they. But if you are not liberal like they will not be very liberal with you, because liberals, Jewish or Christian, are socialist totalitarians. That's where this country is going today. And she got up and said, you know, this Egyptian Muslim woman doctor, when she got a visa to go to Canada, the Muslims came and said, oh, you're going to Edmonton. All the Jews are going to come to your clinic. You're going to know all the Jews in Edmonton. And you're going to collect their vital information. Names, addresses, telephone numbers, place of employment, addresses, telephone numbers. You're going to put it on a hard disk and give it to us. And when a war breaks out in the Middle East, the Muslims of Edmonton will receive orders from the international jihad to annihilate the Jews in Edmonton. The Muslims of Toronto will kill the Jews of Toronto. The Muslims of Vancouver will kill the Jews of Vancouver. And by the way, this is the same in America too. Wherever the Jews live, the Muslims live surrounding them. The Muslims know who the Jews are. And Jews who have ecumenical relations with the Muslims are basically opening themselves up to the Muslims for the Muslims to know who they are, so it will be easier to kill them. You might think, where's this Avi coming from? So I'm coming from the Hadith. Hadith is not the Quran, but it says on the day of judgment there'll be a final battle, and Muslims will kill every last Jew on the face of the earth. And there will be some Jews who temporarily evade death. They will hide behind rocks and trees, and on that day, Allah will give mouths to the rocks and trees, and they will call out, O Muslim pursuers, there is a Jew hiding behind me, come and kill him. Until every last Jew is dead. Every Muslim believes this. There is no Muslim who is a Muslim who believes, who will deny this. Secondly, Christians. Christians are Jews. For the Muslims, Jews and Christians are one people. We're the people of the book. Ahl el-Kitab. The only difference is Saturday people, Sunday people. So Saturday people you kill on Saturday, and Sunday people you kill on Sunday. How many people here know that Jesus Christ is a Muslim?
What? Huh?
Jesus is a Muslim. Ask any Muslim. And when they, how did you know that? Boy, you're smart. Where did you hear that? Say Avi Lipkin, but he's out of town already. Jesus is coming back a second time as a Muslim. And he's Arabic-speaking Muslim. He's going to be on a horse with a lance. He's going to run it through the Antichrist. The Antichrist is a Jew. How many people know the Antichrist is a Jew? Ask any Muslim. Then he goes up to the Temple Mount, prays with 400,000 Muslims. Then he comes down, he breaks the crosses, destroys the churches of the Christians, destroys the synagogues of the Jews, and on that day of judgment, all Jews and Christians who are one people will have their throats personally slit by Jesus Christ the Muslim. So when Muslims tell you they believe in Jesus Christ, you say, which Jesus Christ? Christians don't know this. Christians are Jews. I'm talking to you like brothers and sisters who are from the synagogue. I'm telling you, you're Jews. In the eyes of Muslims, you're Jews. And you know, Jews are funny. We hate the Christians until we marry them. How many people know assimilation rates in America are 71%? Another 2 generations, 3 generations, there won't be any Jews left in this country. Because Christians are great. Same God, same Bible. Messiah's a Jew. And if the Muslims have to kill the Jew, they got to kill the Christian spouse. Like the Nazis. They've got to kill the children of the intermarriage. Like the Nazis. So if you got 6 million Jews in America, let's say married to 2-3 million Christians, and you got 30 million Muslims. Now, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and this is a story from Canada, say that only 10% of the Muslims are terrorists. 90% of the Muslims, 90% of the Muslims are peacekeeping, law-abiding people. They're good people. So you got 30 million Muslims in America today, 10% is 3 million. How many of the Jews and Christians on the target list can be destroyed by 3 million? Ever hear of gun control? I promise you the Muslims don't have any gun control. I spoke in Oklahoma City a few months ago. 4 policemen came up to me and told me that in Tulsa, an alarm went off in a mosque and the police went to check out the alarm. They found hundreds of machine guns in the basement. They couldn't do anything because it was all legal. So the enemy has the guns, and they use the mosques as armories. You know, the Muslims are promising the fanatic Muslims, not the Saudis. Saudis are not fanatic, they're moderate. They'll take you over with money. But the jihadis will do it by the sword. They said the next attack on America will make 9/11 pale in comparison. Because, you know, these Muslims, they work at cross purposes. Some of them want to buy you out, and some of them want to destroy you. And so I predict that law enforcement will not be able to defend the Jews, because the law enforcement will be too busy with 9/11 attacks. I've got friends in Navy SEALs, and they said to me, give me 50 SEALs, we shut down the U.S. America is in a very, very precarious situation. I think one of the reasons why President Obama did not want to, and I justify him, not to get involved in Syria, was because if we attack Bashar al-Assad, there are Shiite Iranian hit teams in American soil. And if we attack the Sunnis have al-Qaeda on American soil. So America doesn't really, I don't know if any other president would know what to do either, because it's a very complicated war. And I don't remember who it was. Was it Sarah Palin said, let them duke it out themselves. But it's a horror because they're destroying each other. All these countries are going to empty out. What I'm predicting is at some stage, there's going to be something so horrendous, so horrific, 9/11 attacks on American soil, that Jews and Christians will either be slaughtered or they will flee to Israel. Do you understand why I'm forming a Judeo-Christian party to run for the Knesset? Because I predict, in addition to our 6 million population, we're going to have another 10 million coming home soon. And where's the Messiah showing up, first or second time? Jerusalem. Is he coming only for the Jehovah's Witnesses? Is he coming only for the Southern Baptists? Is he coming only for the Jews? He's coming to Jerusalem for everyone. And so what I predict is we're going to see a tsunami of Jews and Christians. Do you think otherwise the Jews would ever leave America? Bless you. Only 85% of American Jews have never gone to Israel. American Jews don't care about Israel. They're Americans. Okay. So it's 1 o'clock. I need to wrap up. I didn't even have time to tell any of my jokes. I got some pretty outrageous jokes. But
I want you to stop. I have some questions for you. I just have to get the mic.
okay. There's a mic here also, I don't know. But the point I'm trying to say is I believe, and if there are any Jews here, Jewish brethren, they'll forgive me, I believe that America must have a Christian revival to bring America back to its common sense. And you know, if the Apostle Paul was a Jew and he had to go out to the nations, so I have to go out to the nations too. For us to be a light to the nations. And I cannot see any other country on the face of the earth, especially Russia, replacing the United States as the greatest country on earth. And for America to be the greatest country, it has to be a Christian country. And it's the only way this country will pull out of the, forgive me for using the word tribulations, because there are tribulations that are coming soon. Millions and millions of Christians are dying all over the world, and they're going through tribulation. And it's coming here, because you're importing them here. And when you have 50 million Muslims here, you've got to build 50 million houses. Who's going to pay for it? The Saudis. Yes, because if their plan is to make America Muslim, they got the troops coming in, they have to build houses. America will be happy to build houses for them. And you'll have the strongest dollar and the greatest prosperity in this country in maybe 100 years. The only problem is when you sell your soul to the devil, then comes payday. And so what I'm saying is the churches must be aware of a threat to Christianity, to Judeo-Christian America. But it's not Judeo-Christian America anymore. Obama said it in his speech, in his inaugural speech. America today is a Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hindu country. So isn't that wonderful? America, one nation under God and Satan? Because Allah said, you know what? I'll have to tell one joke. And this is the reason I got a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland. I told this joke every night in Switzerland and on TV. What's the difference between neurotic people and psychotic people? Neurotic people dream about castles in the air. Psychotic people live in castles in the air. And psychiatrists collect the rent. Adolf Hitler was psychotic because he thought he could conquer the earth and he thought he could kill the Jews. Now, can anyone conquer the earth? Only the Lord has dominion over the earth. Amen? Persians, Greeks, Romans, Mongols, Napoleon, Hitler, Stalin, all psychotic, thinking they could conquer the earth. Secondly, he thought he could kill all the Jews. Can you kill all the Jews? No. Now, if you're a believer, Jew or Christian, then you believe in Jeremiah 31:35, which says there will be no more Jews on the earth when the moon, the sun, and the stars stop shining. It means there will always be Jews. And you better pray for the Jews, because then the world goes if they go. Okay. But 2/3 of the human race, or 5/6 of the human race, are pagan. Hindus, Buddhists, and Muslims. Good people. I don't hate them. I love them. You have to love every human being created in the image of God. But if they don't believe in God, they don't believe in the Bible, but they all know the Jews have been scattered to the 4 corners of the earth. Amen? So if they've been scattered to the 4 corners of the earth, if you can't conquer the earth, psychosis number 1, you can't reach the Jews to kill them, psychosis number 2. What does Islam believe? Psychosis number 1 is going to conquer the earth. Psychosis number 2 is going to kill all the Jews, which makes Islam as psychotic as Nazism. But unlike Hitler, Islam has a plan to kill 2 billion Christians, psychosis number 3. 1 billion Hindus, psychosis number 4. 2 billion Buddhists, psychosis number 5. Now, I recommend to the Muslims not to mess around with the communist Chinese. Communist Chinese know what to do. They don't have the ACLU. Psychosis number 6 is that 1/6 of the human race can kill 5/6 of the human race and get away with it. Psychosis number 7, after the 1/6 kills the 5/6, then the 1/6 kills each other, Sunnis versus the Shiites. And Islam is a religion of peace when there are no more human beings left on the face of the earth. And it's coming here. And then, of course, psychosis number 8, when you die for Allah, you get 72 virgins. Now, you told me that's not a psychosis. I can't manage with 1 wife. I don't know how they marry 4. 72 virgins would be hell. One last very, very Tea Party joke. Osama bin Laden dies for Allah. And he goes up to heaven and he's waiting for his 72 virgins. Who shows up? George Washington. Beats him up. After George Washington, Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death, shows up and beats him up. President Adams shows up and beats him up. And then a whole line forms of 70 tall, strapping 6-footers to beat him up. So he goes, he says, wait a second, I'm going to Allah's office. We got all eternity here for this. Goes to Allah's office, you promised me 72 virgins. He says, no, silly, you weren't listening. I said 72 Virginians.
What chance is there of immigration getting closed to the Muslims?
I didn't understand that. Can you repeat that?
I do better without this thing. Can y'all hear me back there? It's echoing.
No.
Okay.
What chance is there of immigration being closed to the Muslims?
Okay. That's a very, very hard question to answer because, of course, America believes in political correctness and receiving all the peoples. The problem is not the people. The problem is the system. How many people heard of Tom Tancredo from Colorado?
Oh, yes.
And Tom Tancredo, I'll never forget this, right after 9/11, he said, one more 9/11 attack, we nuke Mecca. Now, I never said to nuke Mecca. I don't believe in that. But I have in my 6th book, the solution. My 6th book talks about the conquest of Mecca by Judeo-Christian forces. You know when? When the Al-Qaeda comes home to roost in Saudi. They kill the king, they kill the royal family, they blow up the oil wells to deny the Christian economy the oil. Then the one world government, commonly known as the harlot riding the dragon, says, no way, Jose, and Saudi Arabian oil fields get secured by allied forces. When that happens, they're going to demand that Israel participate. Israel will be commanded to take northwestern Saudi. My book talks about the book of Exodus in the Bible, but it shows that we were there, we're coming back. When we take Mecca, 1.5 billion Muslims will rise up to march on Israel. So when we take Mecca, I'm not saying we should do it. I'm saying we will have no choice at some stage but to do it. We should declare martial law and curfew, keep the Muslims in their home. I think there are 2 million people in Mecca. Keep them in their homes, and overnight bring in lasers and vaporize the black stone. The black stone is the vortex of all the evil on the face of the earth. You get rid of that black stone, there will be no more Allah. And it's a very hard story to explain, but what I'm thinking eventually is the Muslims who do come to the shores of America must all choose between Judaism and Christianity. And if the Jewish rabbis don't want them to convert to Judaism, I will work with every Christian leader to convert them to Christianity. And same in Israel. Because Islam is not a religion, it's criminal psychosis. That's why I got a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland. And I stand for that. Somebody's got to stand for it. Next question.
Is it true that young Jews today do not know their history, are not religious, and do not care about the future of Israel?
I would say as a generality, yes. Like I said before, 85% of American Jews have never gone to Israel. There are a number of philanthropists like Bronfman and Adelson and others who give a lot of money to a program called Birthright. And my son, Aaron, is CEO of Lipkin Tours. By the way, if you have groups that want to come to Israel and you want to see where the Bible actually took place, you come with Lipkin Tours. He used to work for Birthright 15 years. And these Jewish philanthropists have given billions of dollars to provide for free air travel to Jewish kids to come to Israel to see something that otherwise they'd never go. And like I said, 1, 2, 3 generations from now, the Jews will be intermarried completely with the Christians. And so I think that, not that it's bad, but I think that God has another plan. I think God is going to scrape up the Jews and the Christians who are together and send them to Israel. If I can quote the Bible, Hosea 11 verse 10 says, "My children Ephraim will come home trembling from the west as the Lord roars like a lion." In other words, in my opinion, the Christians will remain here. The Christians will go through a tough time, but the Christians will come out on top. America must always be world power number 1. But God is sovereignly going to move a tremendous population of Jews and Christians back to the land. And I predict the political party that I'm founding very soon will become the biggest party in the Knesset when all these 10 million people come home. That's what the Messiah shows.
Express to us your opinion of John Hagee and his friendship with Israel.
Of course, I can't say anything but praise. Hagee's a tremendous guy. He's a tremendous leader. He's doing remarkable things for Israel. I wish we had another 100 or 1,000 pastors like him.
Do you think at some point Israel will strike the nuclear facilities in Iran?
Yes.
My last question is, will you please comment on the Muslim growth at the continent of Africa?
Very good question. In my very first book, 1997, Is Fanatic Islam a Global Threat? I document Gaddafi's plan to make Africa the first entirely Muslim continent in the world. And praise God, Gaddafi is not there anymore. I know that what is replacing him is not good either, but Gaddafi is responsible. I don't know how many people here have heard of countries like Ivory Coast, Liberia, Nigeria. A whole bunch of countries in equatorial Africa have had terrible, costly civil wars in which hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, have been slaughtered by the Muslims who came down from the north, armed and trained by the Libyans. But like I said before, most people in America, including the American black population, they don't care about the blacks in Africa. Just as the Jews in America don't care about Israel, nor did they care about the Jews of the Holocaust. American Jews didn't move a finger for the Jews in Europe. They were too afraid for their own position. And there was some anti-Semitism in the 30s and 40s here. Where we are today is a very, very critical watershed, and we're going now into a remarkable time. But I think I will conclude by saying one thing, that this generation has seen more fulfillment of Bible prophecy than any other generation in the last 2,000 years. Thank you very much. God bless America.
Okay, everybody, I've got a couple of announcements here. Next Friday, we will have a meeting here, and it will be a panel on Obamacare. We're going to have some medical professionals here, and hopefully a representative from Ted Cruz's office. and Louis' office to give us updates on Obamacare. On November the 23rd, that's on Saturday, there will be a candidates forum at UT Tyler, at the Ornella Center, at 2 p.m. Comptrollers debate, candidate debate, 2 p.m. on November the 23rd. It doesn't cost anything to attend that. On December the 6th, for those of you who are here for the first time, we are having a Champions of Freedom event at Harvey Hall, and we are going to recognize, give an award to U.S. Senator Ted Cruz and to Representative Louis Gohmert as our Champions of Freedom. And the event will be at Harvey Hall. We've got some information over there on the table about that event. So, thank y'all so much for being here. Everybody that's here for the first time, I hope that you felt a camaraderie with us. I hope that you felt like this is an organization that you'd like to learn more about, and we appreciate you very much. And I'd ask you all again to please pray for the United States and pray for our elected officials, please. Thank you so much. We need some help putting the tables and chairs away. And so if everybody remind each other who we are.